All right, Everett, Werner, welcome. How are you?
Doing well. How about you?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Yeah.
It's a confusing time. I think a lot of people are trying to make sense of this and doing the best they can. What
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
yourself?
Yeah, I got home about a month and a half ago and finished up school a couple weeks ago, and now I'm just trying to get in a routine, figure out what I'm gonna do next in this time I have.
Yeah, what does your routine look like, or at least the desired routine?
I've been swimming about every other day for the last week. I got a wetsuit, so I've been in some open water swimming. My sleep schedule is off, but I think it's probably going to maintain that way. About I sleep from about 2 to noon. So
From 2 to noon.
yeah, that's about that's about what I've been settling into.
Oh boy. Yeah, there is a lot of science as to why that is actually preferable, and I actually read this thing about ancient tribes and how they had these weird sleep cycles, and there would always be somebody on guard. But yeah, long ago, people really were going to bed very, very late just because they were afraid of getting attacked in the middle of the night. So, maybe history is coming full circle and going back in that direction of going back to
I,
bed late.
I think there's some science as well about like some people naturally go into a flipped sleep schedule, and it's potentially on a person by person basis as well.
Well, I think most college kids do that. They kind
Yeah.
of day for night, and
Hmm.
truth be told, it's a little calmer, and there's less stimulation and things being popping up on online. So
Yeah.
working the night's good. Hey man, during the last period, I've been bringing people on some Olympic swimmers, and I think that's what's really really cool is to bring back some former king swimmers or just former club swimmers in general, and I think it's cool that that you are, as someone from Olympia, was once upon a time driving up to Federal Way to train, and we kind of want to talk a little bit about that, and you know. This isn't so much an interview as just as much of a conversation, and I never know where these things might go. So I don't know. How about we kind of start with how you got into swimming? How old were you?
I think I joined a club when I was about 5 or 6. My mom was a college swimmer, so she got me, and my dad's afraid of water. So she got me in the water early, doing swim lessons in a swim club. It was always kind of like a secondary sport. I did it consistently, but I did like baseball and soccer and
Mhm.
some other stuff until I was about 14 when I decided that yeah, swimming was what I wanted to focus on.
That's awesome. Traditionally they say that for swimmers to be to reach their potential, they have to start early. But with the conversations I've had with a whole lot of high caliber athletes, they've actually been committing pretty late to the sport. So, I think because you committed so late, you just might swim into your 30s
Yeah,
as a master. Who knows?
yeah.
Um, that's cool. So you committedly you're doing these other sports. Why did you kind of latch on to swimming in the end?
Um, it's not very glamorous. I was just not very good at other sports, and I saw that I was doing fairly well in swimming.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I was not good at soccer or baseball. And
You
yeah,
never once thought to pursue like chess or the flute or something else?
I played the trumpet, didn't really have a passion for it. Yeah, no, I guess it's just kind of happened. I didn't really, it seemed like the natural thing to do.
Yeah. And look at you now. Before we kind of dive into where you are, or well, not where you are today, but where you were a month and a half ago, it took you to Duke. With so little commitment time, I think anybody listening to this, it'll definitely it'll definitely encourage them, and I think that's special.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, man. Tell us a little bit about, like, you grew up and you live in Olympia. You're in Olympia right now. Why were you commuting every day?
So I was on King for about 9 months, I think, before I left for Duke. And my club team I came from, very small, uh, just one or two other training partners. And then they kind of left. And I realized that I was going through kind of a plateau at the time, and I needed something to keep me interested in the sport. I was honestly considering quitting at the time, and I said, okay, maybe having a group of people that I can consider a team and someone to, it's not just swimming for myself anymore. And so I looked around and I decided to come try King out, and it was a great experience. It felt like it was completely different to any swimming I had ever done before, where it felt like you were engaged with the people that you were swimming with, and there was more to it than just focusing on swimming fast,
Hmm.
which I think helped me swim fast.
Yeah. Could you kind of expand on that idea of quitting? I mean, at that point,
Yeah.
you had probably already committed to Duke. Um,
Yeah.
what point? I mean, was it when you came to King that you kind of bought into the sport, or did you commit to Duke and then think, like, you know what, I don't want this? Like, how did that go out? How did that play out for you?
I think that a lot of people say that a lot of the stress is like in committing, but for me, actually finding a school and committing to that school was kind of a low stress situation, or it wasn't too stressful. But then once I was in the school, it felt like they were watching me and they wouldn't want me anymore if I wasn't doing well. And I would say my best years were probably 16 and 17 before King, and then my first year at college. And
Right.
after, yeah, and it was just demoralizing because it felt like I couldn't get any faster and I wasn't having fun. And I was worried about like the Duke coaches watching me and saying, "Oh, did we make a mistake?" And that was just a really stressful thing for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, what you experience is actually pretty common. I left my coach one 6 months up into the Olympics, and I always kind of thought that sometimes to keep going straight, you got to turn left. And
Yeah.
you obviously made that change, and I see. I mean, I'm looking at your times. What is it that you were recruited for? I mean,
Um,
you're pretty good at the 500, but on the Duke website it says that you're a flyer and you're an IMer. So what is it?
I was probably recruited mostly for the 200 fly and a little bit in the 400 IM. I had a good 200 fly when I was like 17, and then some good 4 IMs up through there. And then I got to college and had a couple better 400 or 500 frees. But I think I was recruited for the 2 fly 4 IM, and I've really settled into the 400 IM since I got to college, I'd say.
Yeah. So, I mean, since we're already kind of talking about college, before I kind of ask you about your events and how that kind of played into changing your focuses in college, why Duke of all the places you could have gone? I mean, it's across the country. Washingtonians, they're
Yeah.
looking for some sun. Durham, it's not the sunniest place.
Yeah. So it's kind of cliche, but it's like I signed up for 5 trips, took 4 of them, and committed to Duke. There was my 4th trip, and or it might be my 3rd trip, but yeah. So you just go to the schools, and it either clicks or it doesn't. I
Right.
Duke was honestly like not the top of my list for a lot of it. I didn't really know what Duke was, where it was, much about it. It just like never got crossed off my list as I like pared down schools.
Mm.
And then I went on an official visit there, and I was like, yeah, this is the place for me. It felt like it was where I was meant to be.
Could you kind of point to what it is that spoke to you?
The team, just like looking at the people and saying like, I could be friends with these people. I want to compete with these people. Like, yeah, for me, I was just looking for a place where it felt like something bigger than myself. And
It felt like home.
yeah, it felt like home.
Hmm. I like that. Is I like that idea of going somewhere and just clicking. Where you had that intuition inside yourself, but when you got to school and you're supposed to be finishing your sophomore year officially right now, did anything surprise you, or did anything was anything much different than how you envisioned it, or is it truly the place that you knew that you were going to be at, and it's still to this day home for you?
Yeah, I think it's definitely still to this day, like even if classes end up being online in the fall, I'm gonna go back sublet and so I can live with my team, the family, and train at some pool somewhere.
Hmm.
But um getting there, you just get surprised. It's more like the college admissions process is like, the school's perfect, like everyone's doing so well and everything, and you get there and there's just little flaws that like I think it's that way everywhere. Like, oh, the math department's really hard. Everyone fit like no one does well in math and it's not taught well, or there's just like little things like that you realize, oh, that's just something you've learned to deal with, and it's kind of the allure of college, I think, is just the new
Yeah.
experiences, little surprises.
What was your first semester like? I mean, not just your first semester, but what was your first month like? You were sure I'm pretty certain that you were trying to figure out your schedule, where your classes were. There's the rush of the first 2 weeks, a lot of things happening. Go hang out with these people. There's a lot of things happening, but what was that initial experience like for you?
So the first week that we get there, we have an orientation week, which is just for the freshman events. Like, you're supposed to go to all this stuff, but then the athletic teams typically get there and will live in like the senior housing or something, and just to like greet the incoming freshmen. So that first week, I didn't really have to worry about academics, but I really got to know the team and was quickly told that most of those freshman orientation events are in fact optional and no one cares if you're there or not. And that first week was just like figuring out who I am among the team and trying to start learning who everyone is. And then once school started, yeah, it's absolutely hectic for the first month while you try to figure out your schedule. I had Google Maps open on my phone. Some buildings wouldn't show up on Google Maps, and it was just panicking, trying to figure out where stuff is.
That campus, is it all centralized into one block, or is it kind of spread out throughout the city?
So the freshmen all live on like an east campus, which is about a mile away from the main campus. It's got some classes and stuff, but then you have to take a bus from campus to west campus. And that's one of the things that I was talking about. That's like, oh, that's a surprise. The buses, they'll tell you on the recruiting tour they come every 5 minutes. They don't, and it's hot at the bus stop, and you got to leave for classes 45 minutes before your class starts, because all the classes are like in blocks, like 10:05 to 11:20.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in a 10:05, everyone's going at 10:05 to the place
Mm-hmm.
you want to get to. And yeah, it's a centralized campus, but there's, a lot of buildings and places to find. And then sometimes the website would show the classes meeting in a different place than the class actually meets. And maybe you get an email from the professor that you missed. So I remember me and one of my friends just like sitting in an empty classroom, wondering when the teacher was going to show up. Like, are we're early, but not that early. And then
Yeah.
texting the teacher and them saying, oh, like, yeah, we're in the next building over. and just running out of there. I don't know how everyone else knew that like they were supposed to be there, but we certainly didn't.
Oh man. So, you're obviously not supposed to train before the first day of school.
Yeah.
But did you guys start working out together before school? And at Duke, do they have like a hell week to kind of welcome you back to the season?
So during that orientation week, there's no practices held. The captains hold practices for like the sophomores, juniors, seniors, optional for freshmen, but the freshmen, like we still had a lot of things we had to go to. Just didn't really make it to any of those. But I do remember, and the pool is kind of across the campus, like on the other campus from where we're living. So, but there is a small pool, 4 lane, 25-yard, probably like 84 degrees. And I remember me and a couple of other kids deciding to go there and we'll like swim, we'll do a practice, just get our feel. We're all just horribly out of shape. And yeah, that's like some of the first swimming memories I have at the new place is just like we did 100 IM cold turkey for time off the wall with a couple boys, just see how it went. That was fun. I remember that.
And right before you went to Duke, you're swimming with Coach Jay,
Hmm.
and he swam you guys a lot. I'm kind of surprised that you came a little out of shape.
Yeah, I was out of shape probably because partly of the transition, and I wasn't like I was kind of like I said not that interested in swimming before I made the change. So I
Mm.
was just like in shape, out of shape going into King, and then we tapered for a meet, and then yeah, I started getting into shape towards the end of the summer, but it's yeah, nothing's ever enough to get you back in shape before you start
Yeah,
getting into shape.
yeah. So tell me a little bit about just that team environment. What is, did you guys do anything special to bond or to connect? Like, a lot of college coaches they like to kind of set the tone in the beginning of the season. Was there, did your coach give you one of those speeches that looks sort of like, oh man, I know like the NC State coach Braden Holloway. He would tell his kids, that his job is to get them to quit in the first 2 months, and he openly says that and broadcasts that with the hope that that he's going to get the kids to buy in, because the ones that don't buy in are just going to be run out of the team. What does it look like at Duke?
I don't remember any big like coaches speeches like that. There might have been one, but if there was, it wasn't heavy enough to really for me to remember it. But
Yeah,
we do a blue white meet like in the first, just like a inner squad meet, but it's also got a bunch of other events like weight room events, trivia contests, uh like goggle toss stuff. But yeah, so it's just like you split into teams and it just helps you like meet some people with a little more depth than you would otherwise. And also like it really did help get your bearings on like who people were because everyone acts different under competition.
sure, sure, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, my goodness. Yeah, I'm just kind of rolling back my experiences, and it's kind of like the first day of school. Like you don't know anybody, like kind of who you are, but you're still you're still wanting everybody to like you. You're trying to fit
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
I can totally see that. Um, yeah, tell me what is that experience from club swimming in college. You obviously started lifting in college. How much has your swimming gotten better since going off to college?
I had an absolute night. My sophomore year wasn't as good as I would have liked, but my freshman year was just yeah, it was incredible. It Everything just changed. I think I dropped 8 seconds in my 500 free, and I felt like I had more. And it's just a lot of it, I think, is just the environment. Like we were training hard. I've done more yards than I was doing in college, and I feel like worked harder than I didn't feel as beat sometimes, but with lifting, it just changes everything. more tired all the time despite doing less. And you go to meets, and I remember in club being able to do, 7, 8 events in a meet and come out the other end. I'm tired, but I survived. It's just, you feel just bad most of the season, but then when you feel good, you feel really good. And
Yeah.
I think that that was a big experience for me.
Do you think it was more like emotional fatigue, just because being in a team, it's more than swimming for yourself. You're swimming for something greater than yourself, and when you race for the team, you have to admit that a little more emotion goes into it, just because you're doing it just as much for everyone else as you are for yourself.
Yeah,
Um,
it definitely might be, yeah, emotional and mental stress getting to you at the end of the meet. Everyone's by the end of uh like an invite or championship meet, everyone's delirious and just like, yeah, I think yeah, there's definitely just more fatigue elements than you're used to.
yeah.
I think you
Huh.
put a little more in the water, you leave a little more in the water as well, I think, when you're racing for other people.
Yeah. That's what I learned in college. Again, I also came out of a really, really good club, a lot of fast people, but I never really knew what it meant to be. I never knew what it meant to be in a team until I went off to college, and it wasn't until my senior year that I finally embraced it. Do you think embracing the team atmosphere and the culture has helped you?
Oh yeah, enormously. Like, you just, you have people who are supporting you more than just like, someone can cheer for you, but it doesn't necessarily, they're not supporting you all the time, but you want everyone to do well, even if it's better than you. And I think that that was a new feeling where it's like, you still have like the, oh, I hope they don't do better than me, but when they do, you're still happy about it. Like, you want everyone else's success as well as yours.
Yeah. That saying that misery always wants company.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that it's really, really important, if you're having a bad meet, to not throw a cap, or to visibly show that you're frustrated. Go be frustrated, go underwater, go scream underwater, go into the hall, do whatever you got to do in the hall, but not in front of the team, just because that team, that's what it is. You're there for each other. At practice, do people get on you for bagging something? Not saying that you do bag anything, but is there that kind of culture to where your teammates would, in a positive sense, get on each other for not putting in the effort, or in some teams, God forbid, you miss practice.
Yeah.
That's punishable.
Yeah.
What's it like in your team?
I think accountability is always something that your team strives for. And I think you can always do better holding each other accountable. I think that honestly, that's something we might not do as good of a job on, is like outright telling someone, hey, you're not doing what you've set out to do, and we need you to do that. And I think that, yeah, we've had meetings about how that's something we want to focus on more. I think that we got lucky because everyone is pretty committed to success, and there's no one really stands out as not putting the work in.
Yeah.
So I think that, yeah, I think accountability is always something you need to strive for in a team.
Have you been watching that Jordan documentary, The Last Dance?
No, I have not.
It's pretty cool, but Jordan would get on his teammates for not for not giving everything, and
Yeah.
the thing is, his definition of giving everything differs from what others may do,
Yeah.
or may be, and I think making the NBA, or making the top level of anything, or even making it to a team like Duke, accountability, it's on a very, very high level, but some people's definition of accountability would mean this, as opposed to where you are. Is what does accountability mean to you and your team? And I mean, and again, do you guys get on each other for staying up late? Do you guys have something special for your team?
So we have, on the sleep thing, it's something that all of our coaches are, always on, ever and about. Get your sleep. It's one of the most important things you can do. You perform better, you're happier when you sleep. And so both the men and the women have sleep contests throughout the year, where every week you record all the hours that you slept, turn it into your class rep, who turns it into a big Google Doc. And then one of the seniors' job is to write an email, usually kind of funny, a rhyme or a poem or something. And the idea is, you call out the people who are doing poorly, you commend the people who are doing well. And that really helped me with sleep. I averaged 8.3 hours of sleep every night for my freshman year. Yeah, and I think 8.1 this year or something like that. So, I think that those are things. And then as far as just general accountability, we set like goals for what we want to do to succeed, and that helps kind of drain down or trickle down to what you need to do in practice to meet those goals, which helps set this is what you should be doing. That's widely accepted through the team.
There are people that respond negatively to the truth. Have you always been someone that appreciated or used the truth, or if you were held accountable, when you were a club swimmer, do you think if somebody told you the truth about how you were training or how you were doing whatever as a teenager or as a club swimmer, do you think you would have responded the same as you do today, or do you think you've evolved to the point to where you actually prefer the truth?
I think that before I plateaued and thought through that and dealt with that, I don't think I would have taken that well. Like someone telling me the truth about my training and saying like, oh, you're not doing this right. I'd say, well, I'm still improving, so I must be doing something right. But I think that after just not getting better, you realize that, well, it's not the coach's fault. Like you were doing what the coach was telling you, like you were doing the sets, but there was something that you were missing personally. And I think, that also instilled some work ethic, but just, you realize that you got to put the work in, and they're not trying to hurt you. No one's trying to bring you down by offering you a suggestion.
Yeah, it's not malicious.
Yeah.
Hey, Everett, we're gonna have some questions coming in. I like to leave the last like 20 minutes of the hour for questions. We got a good one. I'm not gonna jump to it just yet. But we've also got some young swimmers. Could you tell them, what does it mean to plateau, and how long did you feel like you were in this phase that you were just stuck?
There's no real way to put it. Like it happens to, I think, most people, and it sucks. You work, it feels like the same you've been working so hard, and then you get to the meet, you put it all in the water, and you look up and the time wasn't what you expected, and you just can't figure out what's wrong. And you either have to make a change or push through it, and it's just, you got to just keep going, and eventually you make it through it. I don't know anyone who's plateaued, kept swimming, and just not gone better. It can be long, it can be years, but everyone makes it through it if they keep swimming.
Why did you keep swimming? You said that this was the only sport that you were good at. Was it the people?
Yeah, it was partly the people, and also just I think I'd be lost without swimming. Like,
Mm.
what do I do with my time if I'm not spending it doing something like that?
Yeah.
And it's too late to switch to something else, and I have a passion for this. I know that because I was so disappointed with not succeeding, that meant it was something I cared about,
Yeah.
and why give up that?
And you didn't,
Yeah,
and look at you now, right?
yeah, it was worth it.
Yeah. Hey, Sarah, you've got a really, really good question. Would you unmute yourself and ask? And Everett, if you mind, would you rotate a little away from the light behind you?
Oh, yes, sorry. Yeah. Here, wait, I can do this as well.
There you go.
Is that
Look,
better?
we got to see it. All right,
Yeah.
Sierra, would you unmute yourself, please?
Hi, Everett. I just had a question about when did your coach offer you a spot in the team? Like, was it after your recruiting trip?
Yes, that's a good question. So for me, I finished up and the recruiting trip, I pretty much decided in the recruiting trip that that's where I wanted to go. I got home, texted the coach, hey, I talked with my mom first, who helped me with a lot of the stuff, and she said, like, yes, we support you in this. Yeah, she agreed, and then I texted the coach, that's where I want to go. For me, I think he had offered spots to a few people, and he needed to get responses from them back before he was able to give me a spot. So it took about 5 days after my recruiting trip before I got a call saying that, yeah, he had a spot for me if I wanted it.
How close was that day to the national signing day?
Oh, here.
Approximately.
Oh, yeah, I think.
Do you remember if it was in November or like the beginning of December?
Oh, no, it was end of October, early or mid to late October, probably. Yeah.
Wow. A lot of coaches, they do that. They'll tell you like, hey, this is the offer, or we have a spot for you, and you've got 72 hours to decide.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So he just said, hey, you've got a spot, but if you wait longer, it might not be available to you.
Well, for me, it was like, we have a spot for you potentially. We need to hear back from a few more people before we offer you a spot. And so I was just waiting for, some days to hear back from that.
Yeah.
So that was just a bit of a stressful time, but it was nice that I wasn't being rushed into making a decision.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. If others have questions, please type it in, please, and I'll call on you. We got a couple of people that are turning juniors, seniors, and even college bound now in September. So I'm pretty sure you can get a lot of feedback. Your old teammate Jewel and Liam, they came on, and one of the things that Jewel said about her experience at Wazoo was, the first week the coach they told he told the women's team that we're last in the division. You can either accept that, or you can join us in his journey and bring this team back. The University of Duke, like it's got such a name. The whole world knows it, mostly because of Coach K, the basketball coach. I think I read the other day that he's playing in his 41st season.
Yeah.
At Duke. What is it that you were kind of told about Duke? Because you're obviously not in the top echelon of the ACC conference.
Yeah.
What is it that that he's telling you guys? What is the carrot at Duke?
One of the big things that actually separates us from the rest of the ACC is we're not a scholarship team for the men, which we came in, and one of the things they're talking about is just like, we're at the bottom of the AC, or we're not at the bottom. We're like, mid ACC, and these teams are fast. NC State, one of the best teams in the U.S. as well as Georgia, or not Georgia, Louisville, UVA. There's big competition, but there's also people that we can beat. Virginia Tech, fast, not that much faster than we are, or Georgia Tech, about the same as we are. There are people to compete with, and he said, obviously, our end goal is to compete to win a national championship, because that's every college's end goal, and that's not going to happen in your 4 years here. But you need to leave a legacy of, like, legacy is one of the big things we talk about, and a legacy of excellence for those after you. And you're one step in that end goal of the national championship.
I love that idea of legacy. When you're going into your junior year, Everett, what are people going to say about Everett, or what would you like people to say about Everett when it's all said and done?
I want to be known for my work ethic and supporting other people on the team. I think that I'd say I missed a total of 700 yards for any reason during, like, I didn't miss a practice, missed 700 yards total, including, getting at coaches pulling me out and talking to them in my last 2 years here. And I think that that's something I'm proud of, and I want to instill that work ethic in people as they come in.
I think that's one of the better things that I've ever heard. You're keeping a score of how many yards you missed. That's hardcore. I love that. Good.
Thank you.
Good. Hey, Taya, why don't you unmute yourself and ask Everett your question?
What is the best part of swimming?
Is, like, in college or like in club? Because I think that those have some, for me right now, definitely the team and the friends that I've made along the way. And I think that if I fail, or if I don't compete as well as I want to, it's not because I'm upset with the performance. It's because I feel like I've let those people down. And for me, it's all about the other people I'm swimming with right now. And that's where I'm at. And I think this is the happiest I've ever been with swimming. And that's the best part for me, for sure.
Wow. Sierra, would you turn your camera on too, please?
What other schools did you look at?
Oh, there's that forehead.
I was looking at the Ivies, which are kind of in the same vein as Duke, and I had narrowed that down to Brown. So I went on a trip to Brown. I went on a trip to the Air Force Academy as well. And then I was looking at UC San Diego because of David Marsh, and it's San Diego. So those were the schools that I ended up looking at in Duke.
Yeah.
In the final running.
And in the end, you ended up going to Duke, where David Marsh's daughter swims.
Yep. Alyssa, yeah, she's good.
Yeah, she's pretty good.
yeah, she's good.
Do the men's and women's teams swim together at Duke, or are they separate?
We're a combined program, and I think that's good for the women's performances, maybe not as good for the men's performances, but as far as just, like, I wouldn't want it any other way. We're also very close with the divers as well, which I think doesn't happen on some swimming and diving teams. And I think without everyone involved, it doesn't have the same feeling as it would otherwise.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I think, sorry, my brain just stopped. I was kind of reflecting on just how powerful it is that you decided to go somewhere that didn't have any scholarships, that you bought into the idea of what's important is that there is a vision, that there is something to strive for. I think joining a championship team That's very, very special as is. But I think to be, part of the foundations of something that could grow to be something great, and really Duke has the budgets. They've got everything. They've got the name. They got the school. I think that that's great. It's great.
Yeah.
If anyone else has questions, please do ask.
Yeah. Any
Everett,
questions about like academics and the recruiting process as well?
How do you balance your life out with academics and in class?
I'm a mechanical engineer, so I'm fairly busy in the school aspect as well. For me, at least, freshman year was not what I expected it to be. I expected to just be hammered with work all the time and have a lot to do, but I ended up having the least amount of work of, I'd say, everyone in my class. And that's partly, I think, time management, and that the amount of work that you have takes up the amount of time that you have to do it. And that's a fairly common saying, I think. And for me, saying, okay, this is what I need to get done now. I'm going to do this as efficiently as possible, get it done with, and then I can go do the things that I want to do. But then sophomore year came around, and sophomore year has been much harder than freshman year for school. And just, you realize that you can't have free time for no purpose. Like, if you're doing something that's not necessary, you need to keep track of that time and know that this is leisure time, and realize that it is time that you're not doing something else. And is that okay with you, with how busy you are right now?
Yeah. Well said. And usually freshman year, they kind of give you some general education classes that kind of get you rolling with everything.
Yeah.
My brain stopped like a minute ago, and I remember what I wanted to say just listening to you. And it's, I think that programs that have combined teams in general, they do better. I regret being a part of a team that wasn't combined. On the other side of the pool from us was the women's team that was training at the same times. Natalie Coughlin, a lot of people were training, and one of the great things, just from my experiences in training with girls and women, from just later on, is girls, they're on average more intense in practice, and for right now, maybe women and men aren't competing on the same levels, but that intensity in practice every single day, it means a lot. So I do tell everybody that even today, there is a great gift in combining teams, and the energy is definitely there.
Yeah, for sure.
Before I kind of throw my final question at you, if anybody else has any questions, now is the time to ask. While they're typing that out, I like to ask this question quite a bit, but if you could write a letter to your younger self, or if you could go back in time and talk to young Everett, is there something that you wish you knew, or you would have fared better knowing when you were younger in your process?
The people, like your coaches and your teammates, care less about how fast you swim and more about whether or not you were happy with that performance. And I think that that's something I've come to realize a little bit as well, is that in the end, like, your coaches want you to swim fast for the team, but they also want you to be happy with how you've done, and not stay up at late at night worrying about, like, did I do well enough? Are they disappointed in me? And you need to, be focused on that. Like, it's more about how happy you are than how fast you swim.
Yeah. I think that has something to do with just looking for the small victories or the good in everything. There's another popular saying: you either win or you learn. And you truly only lose if you learn nothing, or if you got nothing out of an experience. And going your best times isn't always the signal that you're sure you're doing something right, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you won, or you take that W for sure. But I think there is a lot of I think what we don't focus on enough is learning how to race, right?
Yeah.
You said that you dropped 8 seconds in the 500 and you still felt like you had more. Well, that's the sign and the lesson in that is you have to tweak your race a little bit differently.
Yeah.
I think is if you could do that race over again, Everett, how would you have done it differently? Would you have gone out harder, or would you have stepped on the gas a little earlier toward the end? Like, what is it that kind of made you sad at the end of that? Right.
I think that that race strategy is something that I've definitely developed more in college than I ever have before. I think it's partly maybe I'm just more conscious during my races, or maybe I realized there's more time to be made in just thinking how I swim. Because I used to just go out full bore right from the beginning and hope I didn't die, which I guess is probably okay when you're 14, 15, don't develop as much lactic acid. But for me, I really toned that back in college. And I think I just could have taken it. I have a lot of issue with pacing, and I tend to, the general race strategy we use in 500s is like first 250, smooth, strong, like not slow, but powerful, build that next 50 to 300, and then bring the legs in for the last 200. And what I tend to do is swim that 250, really pick it up in that 50, and then not be able to maintain that for the rest of the 500. Yeah. So I need to, build up slower and then carry, because I used that last 200 almost as recovery, and then the race was over. Right. When, I need to build more steadily and then just sprint the last 100.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Everett, thank you. Thank you for giving us some of your time. When I think of you, I always kind of think your mom and your mom reaching out to me every time you're in town, and is it okay if Everett trains with us? And I'm like, hey, this is an adult. He should feel comfortable to reach out to me directly. Everett, whenever you're in town, and hopefully we'll be out of this in 4 to 5 weeks. When we get back into the pool, join us. Every day, if you don't mind the trip. Other than that, again, thank you, and again, for everybody here listening, this is one of our alumni. He hadn't been with the team for a long time, but I think in the end, similar to what you were talking about, legacy. You were a part of the team, and you laid a layer of that foundation, and I hope to build a lot of what you're talking about that you guys have to do. Right.
Thank you.
Accountability, and again, this is an awesome message and an awesome talk.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope to see you guys again in person. I'll definitely be coming down when the pools open up or up.
Sounds great. All right, guys. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you, Everett.
Thank you. Bye.